It sounds insane, but this is how women want you to treat. The less you chase, the more she feels you.
What if the very things you were taught would make women desire you are the same things slowly draining that desire away? Let's begin where most men refuse to look, because the truth lives there. Quiet, uncomfortable, rarely spoken out loud. The way women actually respond to how they're treated is very different from how it's explained in conversations, framed online, or rewarded by modern culture. Men are taught to listen endlessly, adapt constantly, soften every edge, and translate every emotion into accommodation. Be agreeable, be available, be easy. The message is clear. Attraction grows through compliance. That desire increases the more flexible, understanding, and accommodating you become. And without realizing it, many men slowly give up their center, their boundaries, their edge, their self-respect, in exchange for approval. What they miss is this fundamental truth. Attraction is not negotiated. It's instinctive. Women don't fall for how carefully you listen. They respond to who you are while listening. They don't bond to how much you give. They bond to what it costs you to give it. They aren't moved by how adaptable you become. They're drawn to what in you remains unbending. And this is where the confusion begins, because it feels unfair. You followed the rules. You were patient. You were attentive. You stayed emotionally available. You were consistent. And yet, something shifted. Her tone changed. Her warmth cooled. The energy faded. Respect didn't leave loudly. It slipped away quietly while you were busy trying to be good. Here's the hard part most men don't want to hear. Kindness was never the problem. The problem was kindness without self-respect. Attraction doesn't die because you care. It dies when caring turns into self-erasure. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever noticed attraction fade after you started trying harder? Write your experience in the comment box. As strange as it sounds, women want to feel you have a spine before they feel your empathy. They want your warmth to be intentional, not automatic. Your presence offered, not leaked. They want to sense that closeness is a choice for you, not a necessity. This isn't cruelty. It's biology responding to structure. A man without internal structure creates emotional static. He over-explains because he fears disapproval. He asks endless questions because he doesn't trust his own direction. He reassures too early because he's afraid of losing. And none of this feels safe to the feminine nervous system. Even if it looks gentle, it feels unstable. What actually creates safety isn't softness, it's containment. Containment is the ability to stay yourself under pressure, to hear emotion without surrendering your position, to give affection without abandoning your standards, to remain calm when tested, not because you're cold, but because you're not ruled by impulse. This is why women instinctively respond to men who decide rather than ask. Not because they want control taken from them, but because decisiveness signals orientation. A man who chooses direction shows that his life is already moving. A man who constantly seeks permission shows that he's waiting to be animated by someone else. It may sound harsh, but hesitation kills desire faster than mistakes ever will. Women don't need perfection. They need direction. They need to feel that when tension arises, you don't collapse into explanation or defensiveness. They need to see that when conflict appears, you don't disappear into silence or erupt into emotion. Long before they listen to promises, they watch how you hold pressure. And here's the part most men resist. Women want to be treated as an addition, not a rescue mission. When you center her too early, rearrange your life around availability, or offer emotional depth before she's shown emotional responsibility, polarity flips. Attraction quietly turns into obligation. She begins to feel like the axis of your existence. And no one wants that weight. Not because she lacks compassion, but because it feels unsafe to be someone's only ground. As strange as it sounds, women want to earn access to you. not through games or cruelty, but through consistency, respect, and behavior without entitlement. When access costs nothing, it isn't valued. When attention is unlimited, it loses gravity. When your energy is always available, it carries no weight. Gravity comes from limits. A man with limits doesn't announce them. He lives them. He doesn't argue when they're crossed. He withdraws. He doesn't negotiate his dignity. Instead, he adjusts his investment. He lets consequences speak where lectures would weaken him. This is the treatment women respond to instinctively and deny verbally. Calm firmness, emotional clarity, selective warmth, a quiet sense that you're not trying to win her, but seeing whether she belongs in a life that already has direction. Here's the truth beneath all of it. Women want to be treated in a way that challenges them to rise, not relax into complacency. They want to feel chosen, not indulged, desired, not needed, respected, not worshipped. The moment you treat her like a prize, you become the contestant. The moment you treat yourself like the standard, the entire dynamic shifts. This isn't manipulation. It's alignment. The real insanity isn't that this works. It's that men are taught the opposite. They're told love means sacrificing before selection. That presence means constant availability. That masculinity must be softened to be acceptable. And then they're shocked when attraction dies in the environment they carefully constructed. Most men never notice when attraction disappears because it doesn't leave loudly. There's no explosion, no dramatic exit. It fades through small permissions you give without realizing. You tolerate behavior you shouldn't. You explain when silence would have carried more weight. You stay close when distance would have restored balance. And slowly the dynamic tilts. As counterintuitive as it sounds, women don't want unlimited emotional access to you. Unlimited access removes tension. And tension is the invisible thread that keeps desire alive. When everything is available, nothing is felt. When every emotion is processed instantly, nothing lingers. When you're always there, you stop being experienced. This is where emotional maturity is misunderstood. Maturity isn't absorbing everything without resistance. It isn't endless understanding or permanent accommodation. Emotional maturity is regulation. It's knowing what you allow near you and what you keep at a distance. It's choosing when to engage and when to disengage without drama. A man who engages with everything teaches a woman that nothing costs him anything. And what costs nothing carries no weight. Women watch how you handle friction. Not the dramatic moments, the subtle ones. The delayed response. The disagreement. The boundary test disguised as humor. These moments reveal your internal order. They show whether you're reacting or choosing. As strange as it sounds, women want to feel that you could lose them and remain intact. Not because they want to leave, but because they need to know you aren't surviving on their approval. A man who cannot tolerate loss slowly becomes careful in the wrong ways. He stops leading interactions and starts managing emotions. He begins choosing safety over truth. And safety without strength doesn't feel comforting, it feels suffocating. This is why emotional self-control is so attractive. Not silence, not emotional coldness. Control. Control means you don't rush to smooth over every misunderstanding. You allow space to do what space is meant to do. You don't chase emotional resolution when tension still has something to reveal. You don't rush to soothe discomfort that exists to test character. Most men destroy attraction by desperately repairing situations that were never broken. Women are not fragile puzzles that shatter at the first sign of discomfort. They are highly perceptive. They read how you handle discomfort. When you rush to fix, you signal fear. When you remain grounded, you signal confidence. As strange as it sounds, a woman feels safer with a man who can calmly say no than with a man who anxiously says yes. An anxious yes communicates dependence. A calm no communicates self-respect. And self-respect is where respect from others begins. This doesn't mean becoming rigid or emotionally blocked. It means being selective. You don't eliminate warmth, you direct it. Warmth without direction feels chaotic. Warmth paired with structure feels rare. A man who treats every woman the same becomes predictable. A man who adjusts his investment based on behavior becomes intriguing. Not because he's playing games, but because he's responding to reality. This is where the real shift happens. Women don't want to be treated like royalty by men who feel beneath them. They want to be treated with dignity by men who stand grounded, psychologically equal or stronger. The moment you pedestalize her, you shrink yourself. The moment you honor yourself, polarity appears. Polarity isn't dominance. It's contrast. It's groundedness meeting emotion, direction meeting intuition, stillness meeting movement, and polarity disappears the instant you abandon your rhythm just to synchronize with hers. As counterintuitive as it sounds, women want you to keep your life moving even after they enter it. They want to feel that your purpose existed before them and will continue regardless of them. Not because they don't want to matter, but because they want to join something alive. A stagnant man clings. A moving man attracts. This is why overavailability quietly kills desire. Canceling plans too easily. Reshaping your schedule instantly. Responding the second she appears. These behaviors communicate that your life is waiting. Waiting is unattractive. Motion is magnetic. Women don't want to be your destination. They want to be a meaningful chapter in a story that already has momentum. And here's the uncomfortable truth most men avoid. Women want you to treat them in a way that protects your dignity first. Because when you protect your dignity, you protect the relationship from resentment. Men who abandon themselves eventually punish the woman, subtly or directly, through withdrawal, bitterness, or emotional debt. A man who stays aligned never needs to punish. He simply adjusts. This is the treatment women respond to instinctively. Not indulgence. Not sacrifice. Alignment. Most men believe attraction is created by effort, by doing more, giving more, proving more. And that belief quietly ruins them because attraction isn't built through accumulation. It's built through contrast. And contrast is created by restraint. As strange as it sounds, women notice what you withhold more than what you give freely. Not because they're manipulative, but because the human mind assigns value through intention and scarcity. When your attention is always available, it carries no signal. When it's offered deliberately, it becomes felt. This is where consistency is misunderstood. Men think consistency means always being emotionally available, always responsive, always agreeable. But true consistency is internal, not behavioral. It's consistency of values, standards, and self-respect. A man who is internally consistent can afford to be externally flexible. A man without internal consistency becomes either rigid or excessively accommodating. Women sense this immediately. They feel when your kindness is grounded versus when it's compensatory. They feel when your patience is strength versus when it's fear of loss. They feel when your listening is presence versus when it's submission disguised as empathy. As insane as it sounds, women want to feel that you don't need to be liked in order to remain yourself. Needing approval makes you predictable. Predictability kills intrigue. Intrigue isn't mystery for show. It's the natural curiosity that emerges when a man doesn't broadcast every thought, every emotion, every intention in real time. Oversharing destroys polarity. When you narrate your inner world constantly, you remove depth. Depth requires silence, space, and unspoken confidence. A man who trusts his presence doesn't rush to explain it. This is why women often pull back from men who become emotionally transparent too early. Not because transparency is wrong, but because timing is everything. Depth revealed without foundation feels premature. Intimacy without tension feels hollow. As counterintuitive as it sounds, women want closeness that's earned, not instantly granted. Gradual closeness carries weight. Immediate access feels disposable. This is also why emotional dumping backfires. Sharing struggle isn't weakness. making her your emotional regulator is. A man who can't carry his own emotional weight asks her nervous system to do it for him. That creates pressure, not bonding. Women want to feel that you can face life without leaning on them for stability. That you choose them, not rely on them. And this is where most men quietly fail. They confuse intensity with intimacy. They escalate too fast, invest too deeply, attach before observing, treat potential as proof. And when reality doesn't match the fantasy, resentment follows. Attraction doesn't survive resentment. As strange as it sounds, women want you to slow down. Not in what you do, but in how you attach. Women want to sense that you are present without being consumed, interested without rushing into emotional investment, open without becoming dependent. A man who moves slowly on the inside moves with far more power on the outside. That internal slowness communicates discernment. Discernment signals value, and value is what attraction is built on. This is why men who rush usually lose ground, while men who remain composed often win without trying. The composed man is not cold or distant. He is regulated. He feels desire without surrendering to it. That balance is rare, and women respond to it instinctively because it feels safe without being dull, strong without being controlling, warm without being needy. It sounds counterintuitive, but women want to feel that you could walk away without resentment. Bitterness reveals attachment to outcome. Freedom from bitterness reveals abundance of self. When you know you will be fine regardless, everything about you changes. Your energy settles. Your voice steadies. Your reactions slow. Your presence deepens. And she feels it immediately. This is why men who fear losing women often lose them, while men who are prepared to lose them often keep them. Being ready to lose is not indifference. It is self-trust. And self-trust is attractive because it removes pressure. Pressure kills desire faster than boredom ever could. When a woman feels responsible for regulating your emotions, she pulls back. When she feels free to choose you, she leans in. Sounds insane, but freedom is the most powerful form of seduction. Not freedom from responsibility, but freedom from emotional coercion. Freedom from being needed to validate you. Freedom from being the center of your identity. A woman does not want to be the meaning of your life. She wants to be invited into a life that already has meaning. And this is where everything quietly begins to align. The moment you stop trying to manufacture attraction and start protecting your internal order, attraction starts appearing on its own. When you stop asking how to treat women and start asking how to live correctly as a man, the answers reorganize themselves naturally. Sounds insane, but women experience how you treat yourself far more than how you treat them. They read it in your posture, your patience, your boundaries, what you tolerate, and what you walk away from without anger. Beneath every interaction, the feminine mind is scanning for one question. Is this man internally governed, or is he emotionally outsourced? A man who governs himself doesn't need rules for women. His life is the rule. His direction filters who can enter it. His standards determine how close someone is allowed to come. He doesn't punish disrespect. He doesn't dramatize disappointment. He adjusts his presence. And that adjustment communicates more powerfully than confrontation ever could. This is the treatment that feels uncomfortable to apply because it feels passive to the ego, yet it speaks directly to instinct. You stop chasing clarity. You stop chasing reassurance. You stop chasing emotional resolution. You allow space to do what it always does best, reveal truth. Truth reveals itself when you stop interfering with it. Most men talk women out of attraction by overmanaging the dynamic. They ask too much, explain too much, fix too much, react too much, and in doing so, they eliminate the one thing attraction needs to survive. Polarity. Polarity exists when two stable energies meet, not when one dissolves into the other. A woman doesn't want to absorb you. She wants to feel you, and she cannot feel you if you are constantly bending, softening, and reshaping yourself to match her emotional weather. Sounds insane, but emotional leadership is quiet. It isn't dominance. It isn't control. It's the ability to remain centered when emotions rise, to stay respectful when tested, to stay silent when words would weaken your position, to remain warm without becoming porous. This is why women respect men who don't argue their boundaries. They simply live them. When you stop needing to be understood, you become easier to trust. When you stop needing to be chosen, you become more desirable. When you stop needing validation, you become magnetic. Not because you changed tactics, but because you stopped leaking need. And this is where the real transformation happens. You are not here to convince anyone of your value. Value that needs persuasion has already been compromised. Real value is assumed through behavior, consistency, and self-respect. The moment you start auditioning, you reveal doubt in your own worth. Women sense this long before words appear. That's why the men who attract effortlessly often say the least. They aren't mysterious. They're resolved. Their calm isn't emptiness. It's fullness that doesn't need to announce itself. It sounds insane, but women want you less emotionally available to them and more internally available to your mission, your health, your craft, your discipline, your growth. When a woman steps into your world, she feels the gravity of it instantly. She senses that being close to you means entering something alive, structured, and moving forward with purpose. And that's where longing is born. Not from attention, not from validation, not from effort, but from direction. And here's the truth that brings everything into focus. Women want to be treated in a way that reminds them you're not afraid to lose them. Not because they want to leave, but because fear distorts behavior. Fear creates compliance. Compliance kills polarity. A man who isn't afraid to lose is free to choose. And choice is the true foundation of desire. When you offer respect without pedestalizing, warmth without worship, interest without attachment, you communicate something deeper than attraction. You communicate self-sovereignty. And self-sovereignty is irresistible because it can't be taken, controlled, or demanded. It can only be joined. So stop asking how women want to be treated. Start living in a way that earns your own respect when no one is watching. Let your life keep moving forward. Let your standards do the talking. Let your presence stay calm, grounded, and non-negotiable. And here's the real revelation. The crazy part isn't that this works. The crazy part is realizing attraction was never something you had to manufacture at all. If this hit home, stay with Epic Persona, where we break down the psychology of self-mastery, presence, and real masculine power. Drop a comment and tell us, what standard in your life are you no longer willing to negotiate?